What's up guys, this is Scher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be making a full review for School Banner Part 1 that brings Red, a multi-hit blunt damage dealer with good BP generation, So-cho, a tank with counter mechanics and BP battery, and Shuzer, a farmer that can also work in very short fights. Let's talk about Red first. Well, he has very good status, 115% STR and 121% agility bonus for those two status. His endurance and will are okay, nothing great, just work, and a little better love than charisma. Okay, he has energizing focus too. This increases damage potential by 15%, and when landing a weak attack recovers 2 BP. This is extremely important. Red was made to land weak attacks, so he will only work as intended if he is attacking enemies weak to his attacks, usually blunt. Then the second one, MR's Instruction 2, increases damage for all allies by 10%, then reduces damage taken for all allies by 10%. And then, if your characters are martial artists, they will get another 10% damage increase. So it will work for him, he gets 20%, and the other people will get either 10 or 20 if they are martial artists. Then he has High Protect Tension, increasing his damage potential by 20%, reducing damage taken by 30. Okay, so he has at least 30 damage reduction, then minus 10, and then he has at least 55% damage increase. So one important thing to discuss is that this version of Red decreases damage taken by 10% for all surviving allies. We have ScherBR that decreases damage taken for all surviving allies by 20% if all of them are alive. In Red's case, someone can die that he will still decrease damage taken by 10%. I still prefer ScherBR because the higher the defense value is, the less is likely for you to die. Moving on for skills, we have Feeling Street Food. This is a free self-recovery skill with E-Power, but it scales super well with weapons, and it will probably heal for around 2000. It will also grant himself Heat Up, increasing damage potential for the whole fight by 15%. Can only use it 5 times, so the max Heat Up he reaches is 75%. Alongside his own damage passives, he will reach 130% damage increase when fully stacked. But this may not happen in all fights, because when you are self-recovering, you are not attacking. Sometimes it's just better to attack. You will only self-recover if you want that heat up effect or if you really need to heal. And some people could say you could just start the fight and use it 5 times, but I don't think it's that good. Leon do that and he will do much more damage by stacking 5 times. Unless we are talking about using Red on Remembrance. In those situations it may be good to stack right on start. It will depend on the situations. Then skill number 2 is called High Jump Kick. For 6 BP you have an A-Power attack that is single target and blunt damage. And then after that he will chase with a skill called Punishing Rush. That is now something you can find in his newest S style that will be released within the event. That is an E-Power attack with 8 mods, not that strong. But when it attacks, it has a RNG chance of giving you either +2, +4 or +6 BP. That's nice. This skill was first released with the martial arts version of Ellen, but when you have to use 3 BP in order to get more, it was not that great. But it's now fixed because, well, in the end, Red will always have a plus version of his BP cycles when using High Jump Kick, if you are using him correctly. Like I said, he needs to land weak attacks. When you are using High Jump Kick, you get 2 BP back when attacking enemies weak to blunt. And then, when he triggers Punishing Rush, you get another 2 BP, right? You get 3 BP by the end of turn, so we will get 7 BP in that turn. You are spending 6, you already have 1. And then, remember, you get at least 2, 4, or 6. In the best case scenario, he will get 7 BP back when using a skill that deals damage. So, this attack will feel like a double S power attack because of the 2 hits on full potential. And it's probably the first skill you're gonna use till you reach closer to 20 BP and you start using stronger attacks. Now, the third skill is called Raging Whirlwind Fist. It's a full AoE attack with 9 BP cost that is also fast and lands blunt and slash damage. With A power, in JP's 28 mod, that's entry level. And then he will chase with Roundhouse Kick. This is a skill that you can find in his S style. This is D power, 10 mod, not that strong, but it will also feel like a double S power attack. So this kind of reminds me a little of Galahad. Yes, but there is a big difference between the two characters. Red still needs to land weak attacks. The second hit is just blunt. So even through the first hit has a slash, you'll still be using Red against blunt weak enemies, because you need to get 4 BP back in order to be able to use Raging Whirlwind Fist 3 times in a row. When using the Dragon's Stance Axe formation, he's capable of using this. So you will solo events that are weak to blunt, even those where the enemies are aligned in a row or column, Red will be able to. In story stages as well, no matter the formation of the enemies, Red will be able to solo, just like Galahad. But Galahad has Slash and Cold, double elements, and Red, although has a Slash property, he will still be used against blunt, weak enemies. So this is his whole kit and his gameplay mechanic. Start using high jump kick, self-recovering to get hit up. But I said that you can use a nuke when you have enough BP, right? It comes from many different styles, but there is a free version in this new event. Like I said, we will get this new S style that has Scuffle. This is a 13 BP skill with 82 mod. That's pretty big. So you will start the fight, get some BP, and then use a Scuffle. Then you return to use high jump kick and keep this cycle. It is strong. It does not beat Silver, because Silver is a character that has a high risk, sacrificing LP in order to do more damage. So Red cannot compete. He also does not compete with Leon or even Gwen. Gwen with good RNG is very defensive. So Red is closer to Silver and Gwen than to Leon. Leon is still unmatched for blunt damage. And since he's competing with very strong styles, you may think that he does not add much in the team. I think that his selling point is that he is more of an AoE farmer while also being a very capable damage dealer for Remembrance, especially for those that skip these older characters. And he just comes ready. You just get his S style and you can use his best rotation. But actually there's something better. Remember his first Global Axe style that released Punishing Combo? That was used a lot in the game. They just amplified the skill. It's now a fast attack that has 8 power, we don't know the mod. And then he follows up with Ki Blast 2 times. This is already entry level of 4S power. Now that it was amped, it will probably do around the same damage as Scuffle. I don't know, I will do tests when I get Red, because I'll be pulling for the character. And it's much better than Scuffle because of something very important. Red, you get back 6 BP if he's attacking an enemy that is weak to blunt. In Remembrance, that will happen all the time. In dedicated boss fights, well, you're just bringing on enemies weak to blunt. And he can cycle between high jump kick and punishing combo plus. Damage will be good. Well, you'll be switching between double S power, 4S power, double S power, 4S power. Still not as good as Silver or as good as Leon, but serviceable, I guess. And remember that he at least decreases damage taken to the party by 10%. Those other characters don't have that. So increase it to sustain. Now, there's another skill that he can also use. It comes from his latest All-Kaiser style. That is called Kaiser Double Impact. But this one is Slash and Sun. So unless you're fighting against an enemy that is weak to both Blunt and Slash or Blunt and Sun, you will not be using this because you still need to get BP back. This is a 10 BP skill that will hit for triple S power, and it buffs STR and agility on each hit, meaning that he gets 50% STR and 50% agility. It's good because he can actually start evading if he uses Kaiser Double Impact many times. Since he will only get 5 BP back when using this skill, it's not a multi-hit like 2 different actions, it's 1 action only. You can only use this every 2 turns on average. So in Remembrance, he can still achieve evasion, but it's not so easy too. Then, besides this, you can inherit from his Perfector style Final Crusade for Remembrance and some boss fights. This is a 3 LP, 6 BP skill that recovers and also revives people, while also giving guard up medium, decreasing damage taken by 25 that lasts for 3 turns, and it always revives and recovers from 0 to max. It's overkill, so this is something that can work in some situations. Two other skills that work well for him comes from his first Platinum style. You can use All Phoenix Plus. You can use this attack 3 times in a row. You can place it on the back line when farming and someone in the front line doing more damage. And then there is also this other skill called All Phoenix Plus. 12 VP for a 4S attack. It's weaker than Scuffle, but it brings some damage. That means if the enemy is weak to both Blunt and Sun, but even weaker to Sun, this may be better as your nuke option. Now, the last inheritance can be Raksha Plus, coming from his S style, becoming a 4S attack, but this one carries delay, so it's better to use on overdrive than anything else, since this will just reduce your chances of getting combos with your party. It carries high chance to instant kill as well. Well, this is Red. He's actually a pretty simple character, but also very strong. Sadly, he's competing with some of the best characters in the game. Leon, still the best damage dealer. Silver, the second best damage dealer. And Gwen, a character that has lots of damage in defense. That means that it's hard to compete with all of these, but he has something to offer. Reduces damage taken by 10%. This may not be game-changing at all, but he can also bring a heal from inheritance. There is also more utility on Remembrance, so Red can be used just fine, especially if you don't have access to all of these characters. By amount of power and utility, he deserves a triple S crate, but it's also pretty easy to skip. And if you like the character, on JP they just got another version, and this one is a little different. It's more focused on support. He gets this skill that gives morale up and guard up, and evasion, can use every 5 turns, and he also has a skill that deals damage and applies defense boost that will be 25% in global. So there's a future for the character. The last character is Shuzer, and this character was the last Interesting from JP. They tried to make something here, but I don't know if it's that good. Well, his endurance and view are not that bad, but he has no damage reduction passive. His dexterity is the highest one in the game right now, on 121, and agility is good with 101%. He may even evade if you are bringing agility buffers. Now, when you compare to his past style, the difference in status is not that big. His dexterity, agility, will and endurance are pretty similar, and he buffs all status by 5% when he attacks, so he even gets higher values than this version of Shuzer. Now, moving for passives, the first one is Resolve of the Might, the same as the latest version of Matrox. Starts the fight with 11 VP and gets 2 VP by the end, meaning it's a character with 5 VP per turn. The second one is called Furious Assault 5. On the start of a turn, he grants himself an attack boost of extreme effect, increasing damage potential by 50%, lasts for 2 turns, and it will stack if you are on the same wave. Max of 5 times per battle. Well, this first appeared in, well, Saruin passive. He had a chance to trigger this, same value, extreme, 2 turns. It was 50% chance to trigger, but also carried defense boost. Now, you have a guarantee of this happening, but only 5 times per battle. That's why I said you can also use Shuzer for very short fights. If you want to increase your damage potential, he may work. He's not like Leon that needs to charge bullets before he even attacks. But it will depend on inheritance. So, in farming scenarios, it grants him at least 50% alongside Fired Up 7 that increases for 40. So Shuzer has 90% when farming. Moving for our skills, the first one is called Dual Claw Bit. It's a free AoE attack with slash and pierce damage, E-power only a 6 mod. It's very similar to a normal attack, but spread it to all targets. On this style, it's terrible, because you want big damage. This works better in the past version of Shuzer, because you will just skip using normal attacks when you don't have enough BP. And you do more damage, there are multiple targets. The second one is called Inspiring Hit. For 6 BP you have a C power attack that is fast, hits all enemies with blunt damage, and then he will grant all surviving allies morale up medium, that increases damage potential by 25% for 2 turns, and buffs all surviving allies dexterity by up to 25% if you level this to max. Well, this skill can be used for farming, and he will solo story stages, much like I do with So-cho. So-cho has missile, C power, attack, and he has only 70% damage increase. Shuzer has 90%. But So-cho has blunt and hit, while Shuzer has only blunt. But Shuzer is much faster, he will not have problems when attacking. And he can also be used for remembrance if you didn't get Cindy. Remember Cindy? She is a very good buffer, and she doesn't have any damage reduction passive as well. Very terrible endurance and will, and she can buff morale up medium, dexterity small as well, but she even gives the secret technique that increases gun damage by 25%. It's not stackable, but something that increases damage even further, and they clash. You will not be using both together. The good thing about Cindy is that she can heal with a chance by the end of turn. So there's that. More for those that skip it, Cindy than anything. And if he does not solo events, you can bring someone else and use it as a second attacker. Shuzer can be used in the Magia fight formation in the back row because it's a fast attack and he can use it 3 times in a row. And someone in the front line will do more damage by getting buffed with dexterity and morale up. Well, just made for 2 character farming. Now, skill number 3 is Orbital Claw Bit. For 9 BP you have a full AoE attack with slash and pierce damage and 8 power. And also recovers the user BP by 2. So in the end you only spend 7, but the price point is still 9. And after attacking, it would take recoil damage of 90% of the max HP. I don't really understand why they did this. We're just talking about Red. Red has an 8 power attack that is fast, and he chases with a deep power attack, allowing him to reach very high potential. And now they needed to give him a recoil of 90% just because he has double elements and recovers 2 BP. No, we already have Mac Drift from Human Female that has lots of power. Look, 8 power as well, 7 BP cost. It's not fast, but his attack is not fast as well. He does not have double elements. That's the only detriment. It's not justifiable for that 90% recoil damage. So in the end you have 2 ways to use Shuzer for farming. One as an enabler to increase damage potential of someone else by using Inspiring Hit, or to try to solo content with Orbital Claw Bit, 3 times for story, 2 times for events. And there's another way to use this character, but I just don't believe in this potential. You will go and inherit Clawbait Ejection from his past style, and use it on turn 1, then again on turn 3, and then again on turn 5, and try to do as much damage as you can in 5 turns. Actually 6, because you still have part of the effects lasting for turn 6 as well. And that will do bigger damage than his first style, but with a trade-off of losing the defense ups, losing the all status buffs, and losing the chance to heal. After some turns, this Shuzer really beats out the D1, because of the BP gains when he attacks. He eventually just gets 5 BP per turn easily as well. So why would you use it for a little extra damage? I see no reason. So this Shuzer here is a very simple character with just access to some farming attacks and not much else besides this. He will only take an SS minus grade by being way too risky and unnecessary, easily skippable. There's also no future version of Shuzer so far on JP, so what you see is what you get. The last character is So-cho, and he's the most interesting one in my opinion. He has very good endurance with 105%, goodwill with 100%, still has enough dexterity to do damage with 113, 88 agility does not seem so high, but he does have bonus. So what he wants, he has. Moving for passives, we have Man of Iron. On the start of a turn, he enters a Taunt stance with medium effect that lasts for 4 turns. This stacks. It means that the more turns the higher the chance of being attacked by the enemy. So you can also combo this with the right formations using him on Rising Phoenix X, Desert Lance X, multi-counter, or some other formations where he would just be more likely to get attacked. Because when he gets directly attacked, he will reduce the damage by 25% and counter attacks with Bazooka. And Bazooka is a skill that you can find on Humamayo. Humamayo has this skill in his first limited style. It's a power with 34 mod, that's high mod, and buffs dexterity by up to 25% when it's an active skill. As a passive will be only 15%. Still good enough in my opinion. And the taunt is something that Humamayo can also do, especially with his newest style. And he needs to just use Great Adventure. And he would then counter as well. But his counter is multi-hit attack. There are also other taunters, like Mondo. That was good for taunts, but just that. Then we are also getting Genie. Genie is a taunter that has chases with weak attacks that can heal. She doesn't do much damage, but So-cho can actually do some good damage. Let's discuss the viability of the character. Because there's something here that is nice. Well, when he is attacked, he will recover 1 BP. That means, even if he evades, even if he blocks, he will still get BP. Even if it's a direct attack or an indirect attack, doesn't matter. Just like Bertrand and Rag Robin, status buffs when they get hit. So he gets BP. That's something new, because he really wants this, and I'll explain later. The second passive is called Active Treatment 2, Dexterity. On the start of a turn, he will recover around 220 and also buffs his own Dexterity by 15%. So see that he already buffs his Dexterity, and he can buff again when he counters. Each counter will buff his Dexterity by the same values as his passive. The last is Iron Wall Defense 6, that damage reduces by 40% at all times. So no intrinsic thing, he will always decrease damage taken. So he has 0 damage increase passives. That means that even if you could try to use him for farming, he was not made for that. Forget about farming with this version of So-cho. Moving for skills, we have Hand Grenade Plus. This is a full AoE blunt attack with C power and 17 mod. That's actually very strong for the cost. This is power creep. We had skills that cost 5 BP in the past, and it's now cheaper. But it's a skill that you will not be using unless you really need to attack multiple targets in a very specific turn. Then we have Bound Shot Plus. This is a 6 VP attack with double S power and 48 mod. Another amplified skill that is very strong for the cost, but you will likely not use it as well, because you really want to save VP with this guy, unless it's the last moment in the fight, the last overdrive, and you want to contribute with damage. Because skill number 3 is his selling point. Call it Let Me Handle It. It's a 13 BP skill, that means that he cannot use it on turn 1, only on turn 2. That is support, self, can only be used 5 times per battle. It also carries delay. It will grant himself a heat up, increasing damage potential by 15% for the whole fight, so he finally has damage increase passives. But that's not the important thing. He will recover all other surviving allies BP by 10 points. That's right, that's the biggest BP battery in the game. Something that is only found in JP with Shirei. This is the new protagonist in the game. And they usually like to give new mechanics or very strong skills or passives, like Polka being the best healer, Ian being the best damage dealer. Now Shirei will be one of the best supports in the game. And they share the same mechanic. Shirei is better. He uses 14 BP, will give 10 BP to everyone, and also increase the max BP that can be achieved. Right now it's 20, he will increase that to 30. So Shirei is easier to use because he does not need that delay effect in order to do not surplus the value and lose part of the effect. Shirei needs 3 turns in order to use this again, because he gets 5 BP per turn. So the difference between those two characters is that So-cho recovers BP by being attacked. That means that you may get lots of BP or none. If he is counting, that's good. Even if he's not countering, he's getting BP. Remember, he gets even if he blocks, evades, or if it's an indirect attack. If a boss behavior is like multi-attacks per turns, like, well, the fight versus Gwen and Dora was a very good one, each boss attacking like 3 to 4 times. Imagine those kind of situations where So-cho could get like at least 5 VP in a turn. With 3 VP in the end of a turn, he will get lots and use Let Me Handle every 2 turns. In those scenarios, giving 10 VP to all remaining characters will allow them to use their stronger attacks more often. Some very pricey skills are pricey because they offer lots of values, buffs with higher values, and things like that. So So-cho has some interesting utility. He can be your counter attacker, but don't think that he is as good as someone like Bertrand, because Bertrand can solo, or the newest Galahad that can solo content because they self-heal when they counter. So-cho does not. He just does damage, but he has that very small healing on the start of a turn, not on each counter. That is not enough. Sometimes you just get too much damage, and he does not have defense boosts. That's the difference between these two strategies. But he has a different role in the party, to be a character that will increase the effectiveness of some characters. Okay, but what are those characters, actually? Let's talk about them. We have Matriarch, the first one that people will think about it. With her Valentine style, she has this skill called Pin of Heartthrob. It's 12 VP, that it carries lots of effects, but this will not work all the time, guys. It debuffs all status from the enemies, and right now, sometimes, if you try to debuff all status, bosses will just instantly use Defy Weakness. They have different triggers for different values. So, let's say that this works. She also applies defense boost that decreases damage taken by 15%, buffs all surviving allies, all status, right? That's good. And also applies defense down to the enemies. This could be nice, it's a very pricey skill with lots of effects, right? Another ones. Okay, another one comes from Empress. Empress has her shield that sometimes takes too much time to charge. You could just use So-cho by the end of turn 2 and allow your Empress to use shield on turn 2 and 3, for example, for some situations where you need that. Or you can get from the Christmas style, Christmas Moon. This is a defense boost of medium effect that lasts for 4 turns. 25% damage reduction is good, but now if she has more BP, she will have minus 50%. I mean, it's not like that, but you will have 2 times minus 25% stacked. Because she used Christmas Moon on a single turn and then again on the next turn. It will only have the effects stacked by 3 turns, because one will last till turn 4, the other will last till turn 5. But it's still a way to decrease damage taken, because this makes Christmas Moon closer to the potential of Liz. Remember? Anniversary Liz has this skill called Karatsu Water Wall that decreases damage taken by 50%. Now, if she has more BP, she can also use Karatsu Water Wall more often. She doesn't really need all that much since she can counter and get PP, but, well, when you consider the rotation of a character, she gets at least 4 BP per turn, right? If you give her 10, well, let's say that in 3 turns, she used it to have only 12. Now she has 22. 22 is 2 Karatsu Water Walls and a half. If she gets more BP by counter or anything else, she may actually just use Karatsu Water Wall more often and decrease damage taken by a lot. You're getting more utility out of Liz. Another character that will work well is Polka, because if you are giving Polka more BP, he will heal more often with his inheritance from Rag Robin, Steel Blade Phoenix, right? This allows you to remove a secondary healer from your party if you were in a need of one. So there's just one clash here, both characters taunt. So sometimes you are just distracting the enemy from So-cho. There's also another character that will combo well with So-cho, and that one is Witch's Daughter. Why? Because she gives 3 BP. She can give that 3 BP to So-cho, and then So-cho will give her lots of BP back. And she can use Sweet Smell when she wants, more often as well. So you are getting more buffs from your Witch's Daughter. Another character, well, Narwhal's Daughter. Why? This may be one of the best combos, because with her Water Festival, she has to use 9 BP and regains 1, so it's actually 8. She buffs all status and applies defense boost, decreasing damage taken by 15%. And you can use this on one turn, and then on the next turn, if she has more BP, that will give 2 BP to everyone, have 2 all status buffs, and decrease damage taken by -15, and then -15 again. See that she will be decreasing damage taken by a good value now. You are just doubling the effects of Narwhal's Daughter, and she will give 1 BP back to So-cho, helping out in a way. Or maybe even 2 BP if you use it 2 times. See, there are some situations where you can make some characters better by adding So-cho. But who are you removing to add So-cho to the team? That's a big question, an important one. It will depend. Sometimes you need to bring 2 characters to decrease damage taken. Well, with So-cho you can only have 1, because you are getting more effects. Sometimes you are bringing 2 healers. Now, So-cho will make your healer work by himself. Sometimes you were just bringing 2 damage dealers, because their cycles were not that great. Now, So-cho can make Silver, for example, barely even use her weaker attacks. You can just open with, for example, Vandalize Plus from her Platinum style that uses 10. She recovers lots by attacking, and if she gets more BP by So-cho, she just keeps using her nuke instead of cycling that weaker attacks like Lightning Fist or like Dragon's Tail. See? The character will do more damage with the help of So-cho. So these are the situations where this guy will help the party do more. Hence why I think that he's very good. And in the future, well, you can combo him with Shuzer. Some people are saying that you will not want to use both together because you will want other people in the party, and that makes sense. The thing is, Shuzer can actually do more than just give BP to the party. So it will depend what you want to get, but Shuzer gives BP to So-cho, So-cho gives BP to Shuzer, so they will be able to use their skills on the same time. This can be interesting, it's not necessary, but we will allow for some different situations. So when you bring So-cho to a boss fight, he will just keep using normal attack to save as much BP as possible, try to trigger his BP by passive, and use Let Me Handle It as much as he can. He can only use it 5 times per battle, but 5 times it's probably enough to get the best effects from your characters and kill a boss, unless it's a boss with multiple HP gouges and takes ages to clear. Those will happen, but they are not all content. It's just very specific content. Now, if you want, you can also inherit from his first style, Leave It To Me. So that if you know that you're going to kill the enemies in that overdrive, for example, you use it Leave It To Me because this is a 4S attack with Blunt and Lightning. You'll probably use it all your heat ups from Let Me Handle It. And on the last moment, he will sacrifice himself to give Morale Up, increasing damage by 40%, and Guard Up, decreasing damage taken by 35 for 3 turns. But I think that only the Morale Up will help you because it's fast and will increase the damage potential of everyone in that last overdrive turn. Is that something required to make the character work? No, it's just an extra, just so that you can do something else in the last moment. But So-cho is a boss specialist with utility for counter, BP battery, and that's it. A very interesting character that we'll see people using, showcasing some different strategies. Not a mandatory character, not exactly a must-have, but, well, he has something that no one else has. That's why I believe he deserves a SSS grade in the tier list. Sadly, So-cho has no future styles as of now on JP, but I do believe that this one is good enough. Till we get Shuzer, or even when we get Shuzer, you can still do some crazy stuff with both together. And now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? I have to say that yes, but this is not a must-have banner as well. Let me explain. Shuzer is a really bad character, makes no much sense to me. And So-cho is a really cool character that will add some new utility that does not really change how we play, but can make some characters do more than they can already do. And red is a very strong blunt damage dealer that also works well for farming and remembrance. For new players, he is going to be really helpful, especially those that skip it or don't have Leon or Silver. The viability of So-cho can only be explained by seeing how he operates in future challenges and how people combo him, but I really see the potential here. I think this character is interesting enough to justify pulling, but I still think it's not exactly a must-have. So decide upon if they will add enough to your team. I think the banner deserves a Silver award because I have 2 SSS characters but one that is really bad, so you can still decide later, wait 1 week and see what they will release in the future. I think that Saruin banner is finally coming because we are getting passives that have upgrades that get us closer to the passive that Saruin has to offer. So we will see lots of good banners. Decide with caution. I will probably pull on this banner because I want to see what So-cho has to offer, and I have all versions of red. But if I get those 2 characters, I would drop from the banner. Shuzer is really not worth. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please see here on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this. Please subscribe if you still haven't. If you want to support the channel, there are links on the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.